Mr. Brannon, you
I know
ready? We said 2:15.
I know we
okay?
waited on Grayson.
Yeah, it's all Grayson's fault.
It's all Grayson, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Brannon.
Hello, welcome to WeatherWise. It is episode number 8. I'm your host, meteorologist Nathan Scott, and joining me for this first segment is Chief Meteorologist Tom Brannon. We're going to be talking about, I think, a heated topic between viewers and people in general. What does the chance of rain mean? What does the 30% chance of rain mean? Should you cancel plans when it's 70%? So that's one topic we're going to discuss right here off the top. And then we'll talk about dew point. What is the dew point? Why do we use it as meteorologists, and how does the dew point impact your daily life? And finally, we'll take a glimpse on what we're looking towards next week. Groundhog Day was Sunday.
Yep.
The groundhog saw his shadow and says 6 more weeks of winter is coming, although today we're in the 70s.
Yeah.
And we may get close to 80 by Saturday.
We didn't have 170-degree temperature in January, did we?
No, we did not.
First time in a while. Now, depending on what groundhog you follow, we have one here in Arkansas.
We do.
I can't remember his name off the top
Randy
of my head.
Hankins, right?
Could be. That's right. Randy Hankins.
We haven't seen him, though. We don't know if he saw his shadow or not.
Yeah, I was thinking of Craig O'Neill, but yeah, we've had a groundhog in the garden. He's probably still asleep out there. So 6 more weeks of winter. Let's hope not.
But the weather pattern shows we got some big changes.
Yeah,
so this is a false spring we're enjoying right now. Even though my flower bed, the daffodils are coming up, some hyacinths are coming up, they're saying, hey, we're ready for spring. You might want to hold off. Because
I'm not surprised.
Winter weather,
yeah.
Are we done with it just yet?
Yeah.
Last February, it was the warmest on record. I don't think this February is going to be a repeat.
Yeah, so, undulations. We warm in December, cold in January, starts off a little warm, gets cold again. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And what about that percentage of precipitation?
Yeah, well, we abbreviate it as POPs. So you see a forecast, you look at the forecast, 30% chance of rain, 70% chance of rain. What in the world does that mean, Tom? Because it means different on whether you're watching a broadcast station, if you're looking at the National Weather Service, or if you're looking at your app. It all plays a part.
Yeah. Probability of precipitation, or POPs, and we use that with our forecasts. And depending on what you see here, I know that we quizzed one of our sales folks earlier.
We did, yeah.
About that. What does this mean to you? But what does it mean to you? When you see 30% or 70%, does it mean it's going to rain 70% of the day? Does it mean it's going to rain for 70% of our viewing area? Could it rain 70% of our viewing area? Or 30%?
Or is it just the percentage that you will have rain at any point throughout the day?
Right.
So most of the day could be dry, but we are expecting a lot of storms. Later in the day, you might go with a 70% if you're the National Weather Service, or if you are looking at your app, because that's basically detecting your location on GPS and saying the probability that it's going to rain at any point throughout the day, even though most of the day will be dry, just because there is the likelihood it will rain at some point, your app might say 70%.
Yeah. So when you see that, should I cancel my plans for the day or not? What do you think?
Well, when we talk about it, it just is in terms of, again, a broadcast
Coverage.
station,
Yeah.
or if you're looking at your app, or if you're looking at the National Weather Service, because here in Little Rock, we cover a lot of counties, and you may not realize how many counties that THV 11 covers. 40 counties at least. We go all the way from South Central Arkansas all the way up to North Central Arkansas, as west as Polk County, and as far east. Once you bump up into Jackson, Woodruff, and Monroe counties, then you get into the Memphis viewing area.
Well, let's take this last episode of rain that we had, because that was a widespread rain that pretty much lasted all day.
Yeah.
And it impacted all of the counties that we have here. Now, our percentage of rain was 80%.
It was 80%.
80%. I never ever want to go 100%. Because there's a burn factor there.
Absolutely.
I've done that before. It's a 100% chance. You think, okay, it's definitely going to happen, or it's definitely going to rain, it's definitely going to snow. But I've seen certain situations where it didn't in a particular area, and then what happens? The viewer gives you a call and says, I didn't get any here.
There's always that bus factor. Yeah. But with what happened last week, we had a solid area of rain, heavy rain through the River Valley, through North Central Arkansas. 3, 4, 5 inches of rain fell. But that shield of rain took forever to get to
there.
Jefferson County, Lincoln County, Drew County did not see hardly any rain until the afternoon hours. So if I'm a viewer in Drew County or Jefferson County and you see 80% chance of rain, but yet most of the day is dry, you're probably thinking, what's the deal? What happened? And we try to stress that. We were like, most of the rain is going to be north and west of the metro. It may take some time to reach you folks in southeast Arkansas. So yes, we put a percentage on it, but you have to add more details. Now, if you were looking at an app, one of those junk apps, Apple or whatever is already installed on your phone, they might have gone with a 70, 80% chance of rain just because they knew it was going to rain at some point throughout the day. But once again, a large part of the day was dry.
Right. Again, it doesn't mean it's going to rain all day at your locations. You take, let's say, the 20% likelihood. Take 10 counties in central Arkansas. And we try to do the best we can to break it down. And we've used these graphics before. Best chance, 80% southwest, 60, 50, depending on the speed of the system. You get 10 counties here in Arkansas, central Arkansas. You've got a 20% chance of a shower, an isolated storm in the afternoon. 2 out of 10 folks could get that shower.
Yeah.
But you really can't pinpoint who's going to get that isolated shower.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just know that it's there. So we try to incorporate words like isolated or spotty. And then when you get to those higher percentages, the scattered percentages. Last week, it was pretty widespread.
Yeah. You mentioned isolated. Even if it's isolated, we've seen it before.
We have.
Where nothing happens except right over Little Rock, the most densely populated part of the state, or where most of our viewers are, they get that 20%. They get that super soaking rain, and everybody else in the surrounding counties are like, what rain? But that 20% is like, it could ruin plans.
It could. It
just
certainly
because it was just one lone shower, but...
And I'll tell you whose plans could get ruined the most in the summertime. Those concrete pours.
Oh, yeah.
When you're building a house and you get a call from, I've got to pour concrete today. It's not going to rain. I said, well, there is an isolated chance, and it's at that house that's trying to pour some concrete.
And we don't have the ability to say it's going to rain in this exact spot at this exact time. There's no way anybody can predict that. The only way we can predict something of that nature is if there's a boundary that we can see headed in our direction, or if there's a boundary already located there with daytime heating, then that's where the storms will likely develop.
Right. So, and that's a case this week where there's going to be a boundary that could settle into parts of Arkansas. So along that front where you've got convergence, air masses coming together, you're probably going to see the best chance of rain in that area.
So let's take an example of what stray to isolated means. So this is what a future radar could look like for the entire state of Arkansas, and this is what radar is looking like during the afternoon hours. That is very much stray or isolated showers or storms, but you see what's happening. It could be one right over Pulaski County. Nothing's happening in Garland County, Perry County, or Faulkner County. And then when we take a look at something maybe a little more spotty in coverage, especially into the Ouachitas here, there's a little more grouping of spotty showers and thunderstorms developing. And then the coverage continues to grow.
Right.
Scattered, you get the idea, widespread, numerous. There's numerous where
Largest
a large part
of
Arkansas, just because it's going to be a huge shield of rain moving through, and then widespread is everybody gets rain across the region. So here's the breakdown of, I think, how we can look at things in terms of coverage and then also how it may impact your plans. When we take a look at 10 to 20%, that's going to be stray or isolated coverage when you look at the radar. Plans, most of the day and most of the area, the viewing area, will be dry. Not to say there won't be a downpour that happens just over your house, but 5 miles down the road, it's dry, or 5 miles in the other direction, it's dry. Then we look at coverage spotty to scattered, a 30 to 40%. Parts of the area will be dry or could be wet. And we use the 30 to 40% really in terms of summertime stuff, because you have the daytime heating, most of the day is dry, you're good through the morning. But then you get into the mid to late afternoon hours, those storms start to pop up. And they could grow in one storm and then expand into other storms. We've seen that happen several times. Also, maybe most of the day is dry and you have a front moving in, producing a line of storms or a squall line that will impact the area later in the day. We'll go with a 30 to 40% chance of rain here on THV 11 on the forecast. Apps may go higher. When you take a look at 50 to 6% chance of rain, that's numerous to widespread coverage. So more of the area and more of the day will be wet. 50 to 6% chance means there's probably going to be a few hours of wet weather for the most part. And then 70 to 80% widespread coverage of rain. Most of the day will be wet. Could there be some dry time? Absolutely. But 100% chance of rain, that's when you have like a tropical system that's just going to pour all day long. It's going to be a washout. That's the only time we use 100% chance of rain. And that means 100% chance the day is going to be wet, and then the entire area will be wet as well.
I still won't say 100%.
99.9%, right?
I'll go as high as 90% chance of rain. So hopefully this helps, that it's based on coverage.
It is.
Not necessarily that it's going to rain X% of the day. Although when you get into those higher percentages and coverages, it could.
Yeah. It's coverage of the actual landscape, but it's also coverage of what period of time frame of the day it will be impacted. So hopefully that answers some questions. Hopefully it doesn't stir up any more questions you may have about this. Some people probably like, okay, can we go over that again? But yeah, it all depends on what you're looking at. The app, the National Weather Service forecast, website, or broadcast, it's all going to be different. So.
Yeah, and of course, we'll provide you with a little guidance on whether or not we think this has the potential to be a wide-ranging type of situation, precipitation of rain, snow, or whatever. Or, like you say, the summertime. Hey, can't rule out an isolated shower storm.
Yep.
Or spotty shower storm.
Yep. Okay. Arkansas weather always changes.
Yes.
And you never count anything out. Like we've seen many times where, it's a 10% chance, and then you have one storm, and then it just develops into this cluster of storms, and you're like, uh-oh, I should have been at 50%, not 10%.
Then you have some explaining to do. It happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Tom, thank you for joining me here on WeatherWise. Get back to work. Yeah, work on that forecast.
This way.
He's going to put in some snow for next week, by the way. That's what I'm hearing.
I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. Because all anybody heard out of that was snow. What?
Yes, that's all they heard.
Yeah, February is going to be a little colder toward the end.
All right, and we're going to be talking more about the month of February in terms of the weather pattern. We'll be back more weather-wise after this. Welcome back to WeatherWise. Now for this segment, we'll be discussing on the dew point. You hear it all the time from meteorologists, especially during the summertime. The dew points are high. It's going to be very humid out there. So what is the difference between dew point and humidity? Because some of you probably are used to saying, well, there's the humidity, it's very high, and not so much the dew point. The dew point is used more for meteorologists, while humidity is more of the common term for you people like the viewers. So what is best to use? The dew point. The dew point is a direct measure of moisture in the atmosphere, and we can actually detect that using an instrument called a sling psychrometer, and you just kind of spin it around. I did this in college, and it will give you the dew point, or how much moisture there is in the atmosphere. Meanwhile, humidity, which is known as relative humidity, is a relationship between the temperature and dew point. So you have to know what the dew point is to get the relative humidity. Are you confused yet? Here's an easier breakdown on what I'm talking about. Let's talk about summertime. 91 degrees is the air temperature. Dew point is 75. It is very tropical out there. Anytime you have the dew points get into the 70s, that's some very much tropical rainforest-like air that you can wear for the most part. You step outside, you start to sweat. The relative humidity is 60% with that calculation. Meanwhile, the winter, we've got a temperature of 36 degrees. The dew point is 35 degrees. So as the air temperature and dew point are very close, that tells us the atmosphere is becoming more saturated, almost 100% saturated. And that's shown here by the relative humidity, because the calculation gives you 96%. But when you look at this, you don't call that humid. You don't say 96% humidity in these conditions during the winter is humid. However, you do say that when you're talking about the summertime and you got a humidity of 60%, but that's because your dew point is so high. And the higher the dew point is, the more uncomfortable it feels. Dew points out there in the winter, they can drop down into the teens, single digits, even below zero. And as the air temperature cools down to the dew point, that's when you get 100% saturation. So at the surface, when the air temperature cools to the dew point, you will have potential, like I said last time, producing frost or dew, which is when the dew point is above freezing. But also, if more of the atmosphere is saturated, you'll have a cloud that develops along the surface. And that, of course, is known as fog. So we'll be watching out for the potential of fog out there as we go into this week, just because we're going to have a lot of warm air running into a frontal boundary that's going to be draped right across the Mid-South. And as that warm air moves in, your dew points are pretty much going to be in the 50s and even low 60s, and expect the good potential there's going to be some fog that develops. So once again, summertime, dew points in the 70s, yuck. Winter, not so bad. The bottom line is warm air holds more moisture than cold air. And the dew point clearly shows this. Relative humidity does not show that. So that's why we always talk about the dew point here on THV 11, especially going into the warmer months, because the dew point really tells a story. When you have a dew point very high, it's muggy, it's disgusting out there. Meanwhile, in the winter, the dew points are much lower, very dry air. And when you have very dry air in place, your static electricity increases. And I'm sure you noticed that when we were really dry in January. You touched the doorknob, you touched that door handle, and it gave you a good zap because there wasn't a lot of moisture in the air due to the lower dew points. All right, the final segment here on WeatherWise, we'll be talking about what's happening during the month of February. Yes, it's warm out there right now, but big changes are in store getting into the middle part of the month. Stay tuned. Welcome back to WeatherWise. I'm your host, meteorologist Nathan Scott. We are in February now, and last year it was the warmest February on record. But let's take a look at the records when we talk about snowfall during the month of February. This goes all the way back to 2001, and you see the snow totals pretty minor over the past couple years, except what happened 2021 when we had that Snowmageddon take place, producing over 20 inches of snow at Little Rock. And that is the most snow, I believe, in February for Little Rock. Look at the totals, though. Usually they range between 3 and 6 inches. So we'll have to see what happens this month as we have started the month of February. And when we take a look at the breakdown on February's with less than 1 inch of snow, since 1880, 99 of those years, or 69%, has seen less than 1 inch of snow. In terms of February's with more than 1 inch, or 1 inch or more, we've had 45 years where that's happened, or 31%. So the odds favor, typically we don't see too much snow during the month of February, but of course 2021 was an outlier. It's beautiful out there right now. We got temperatures into the 70s. This was recorded on Monday. A front is slicing its way through the state. If you're watching this, of course, on Tuesday, we have a huge temperature difference. And this is Arctic air trying to move in. So let's go over to Storm Track 11 now, because we're looking ahead. I've showed this before. This is the Climate Prediction Center forecast, which is a part of NOAA, and what you're looking at is the latest forecast, valid February 9th through the 13th. This was issued on the 3rd, Monday afternoon. Look at the blue. That has really started to buy up a lot of real estate across the country. We saw a lot of blue like this back in January, and what this is telling you is the odds that we'll see temperatures below average are increasing across a large part of the country. This does not tell you how cold it's going to get. Our average here in Arkansas for this time frame is usually the low to mid 50s. So if we're in the upper 40s, this would verify. But this blue continues to grow day by day, and the odds continue to favor more from possible to likely, especially with the darker blue into the northern Rockies and the northern plains. On the other side, you see the green, that is precipitation outlook. So with this front that's trying to wiggle back and forth over the next several days, it's going to be a temperature roller coaster. Get ready. We will also have the opportunity of rounds of rain. Not anything heavy at this time, but going into next week, we'll have to watch out what happens with the cold air and any moisture, because there could be the chance we may see the potential of winter weather somewhere in the Mid-South, but especially I think Missouri, Kansas, and into the Ohio Valley. This is now February 11th through the 17th, still shows a lot of blue real estate across the country. So once again, the odds of seeing temperatures below average going into next week and maybe into the following week are continuing to grow. Lastly, I mentioned the potential of winter weather. This is an experimental product. Risk of heavy snow, February 11th through the 17th. They issued this for the Gulf Coast. It did verify with that snowstorm that happened last month. So there is some concern that the cold air, along with moisture, could meet up, especially in the central Appalachians, the mid-Atlantic, but Arkansas is just on the edge of that. So this will change. We're not saying it's going to snow next week, but we are going to have to watch out for the trends to see what's going to be happening, as Arctic air is very sneaky, and the models have a tough time on figuring out how much Arctic air there's going to be in place and also where storm systems will develop. I would say the bottom line with this is it is not going to be a repeat of what happened last year when we had the warmest February on record. We are going to be dealing with waves of, yes, warm spring-like temperatures at times, but also the cold will be returning. So once again, get ready for a roller coaster ride, because this week it's fall spring, and then next week looks like winter's revenge may try to come back and bite us, maybe with the potential of some winter weather for parts of the state. I think right now the highest chance will be for North Arkansas. Of course, we'll keep you updated here on THV 11. Thank you for watching. And if you have any topics that you want me to discuss or cover, or if you have any pictures you want to share, make sure you send that information to me. All you have to do is go ahead and email me at nscott@thv11.com, or you can also contact me on my Facebook page. Have a great afternoon, and thanks for watching.